Am I the a-hole for giving my stepson a 20-minute time limit to return my car before I phoned the police? Plus update. Original post. This happened last night and I'm extremely annoyed. I am a 34 female doctor and part of my job entails being on call for 1 to 3 nights a week, twice a month. My fiancé Dale, 30 male, has been saving with my stepson's mom to buy him a car for Christmas. My stepson Rex, 16 male, has a license already but always has to borrow his mom's station wagon or his dad's beat-up pickup truck. His mom's car is lame and embarrassing and his dad's can only hold 1 passenger. Not practical for a teen. On to the main conflict. Rex texted me yesterday around 12 if he could borrow my car after school. His friends wanted to go to the mall but the bus route is too long, so could they borrow my car? I texted back a, "Sorry but no, I'm on call again. Can you ask your mom?" He says no. I told him, "Sorry, but my answer is still no. I'm sure you will find a solution. Ask your friends and you can all figure it out." If you see where this is going, you are less shocked than I am. I was up in my home office, the room where I keep my switch, sewing machine, and laptop, so not an official office, when I heard Rex and his friends downstairs after school. I was going to see if they needed anything, but they left after a few minutes. An hour later, I went to the kitchen, cleaning up the empty bottles and wrappers from their snacks. Then I saw the spot where I left my keys empty. I began to panic. First, I bolted to the door and my car was gone. Immediately dialed my stepson. He picks up and it's obvious he's in a mall store that plays loud music. I told him to get himself home now, and he laughed and said that I am not his mom, that he'll be home whenever he pleases. I'm not proud, but I told him that he has 20 minutes to get home or I'll call the police and report it stolen. Rex panics and said he couldn't find all his friends and drive home in 20 minutes. Told him tough luck. 10 minutes later, I get a text that he is at a mall parking lot and will be home soon. I phoned Rex's mom and informed her of his stunt. She was madder than me when I told her that I was on call. She apologized and promised to talk with Rex and Dale ASAP. Then Rex came in, threw me my keys and locked himself in his room. Dale finally came home around 8 and he said he had been on the phone with his ex. He demanded to know why I punished his son. I put my foot down and explained I am on call. That means I need my car. And Rex stole my car. Dale disagrees. His ex agrees with me and decided she will not be buying Rex a car anytime soon due to his entitlement. Dale thinks I am making a big deal out of nothing. I didn't end up going into work, so why did I have to threaten Rex? I've only gone in twice this year while on call. But just because nothing happens doesn't mean that I'm always clear. Rex is now grounded. Fiancé barely speaks to me but asks me when I'm going in today. I'm not, and if I will apologize. I am still not budging and I'm still angry he doesn't get it. Am I the a-hole? Editing because it came up in the comments. Yes, Dale was 14 when Rex was born. Don't get hung up on this. It isn't about teen parents. Rex's mom was 15 when they had him and is the best mom if you ask me. She's who introduced me to Dale. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Rex took your car even after you said no, and Dale is okay with that? Teenagers need boundaries and rules, and parents need to enforce those. Dale is the a-hole and is setting Rex up to be one too. Rex owes you an apology, not the other way around. He demanded to know why I punished his son. Agreed that Dale is the a-hole while Opie's not the a-hole. Opie didn't even punish his kid. She simply demanded that he return the property that he stole. The son rudely refused, so Opie had no choice but to let him know that there would be consequences for his actions if he didn't return the car. Dale's completely off base if he thinks his son did nothing wrong, and that Opie should apologize. Even the ex thinks he is being 100% unreasonable. What would Opie even be apologizing for? Opie's fiancé is just telling his son that he co-signs his theft/disrespect of Opie. It's like he thinks that just because Opie didn't end up having to go in it should be okay for this kid to commit grand theft auto? Clearly, he has little respect for how being in an on-call job works. Not the a-hole. Your stepson is clearly entitled because he did steal your car. He even had another option, but it wasn't cool enough? Anything so little of you, it wasn't even of consequence in his mind to take your car and then throw the keys at you afterward. The threat of calling the cops was a perfect response because it seemed to be the first time he was shown that his actions have consequences. Your fiancé? That's even worse. He damn well knows better what an on-call is. And regardless of that, you saying no means no. Why is not a question. If you don't want him to take your car, he should respect that. Your fiancé playing this off is a huge problem because it excuses your stepson's behavior. This is a relationship-ending problem. Do not budge though, or his behavior will get worse. I got my driver's license before all of my friends in high school. My mom graciously let me drive her minivan most times after I asked. At first, I was embarrassed because it was a big, bulky Toyota Sienna, but my friends didn't care. It just means that more people could ride. It also helped that the stereo system had amazing bass. WTF? Your fiancé is a walking red flag. He's a terrible parent and he doesn't even realize it. Stealing a car is a big deal. This is not a gray area. No offense, but you're a doctor. You have your act together. You can do better than a man who expects you to apologize when his son commits a felony. Life is too short to be married to a crappy parent. I won't even date someone who doesn't raise a dog up to a certain standards, much less a parent of a human being. This isn't a harmless prank either. Even if OP was a stay-at-home mom, taking a vehicle without permission is at least a $10,000 to $25,000 item that they may not want a potentially uninsured teenager driving. Some people aren't even comfortable letting their friends drive their vehicles. The entitlement this teen has could ruin his own life. I'm military, and a lot of the senior generation NCOs who were teens in the 80s committed crimes like this and were given an option: lengthy jail sentence or serve a stint in the Army. My favorite master surgeon stole a car at 18 and chose the Army. He now has a daughter graduated from West Point, and he retired to work at Raytheon on top secret missile projects. Kids these days aren't given second chances like this anymore. It could stay with him forever. Edit/update. Now I can see why my friend told me the sub can be a little much. I'm very thankful for these responses, but I think I'm going to leave the comments now and have a very frank discussion with Dale tonight. Rex is with his mom, so he won't be in the middle or get involved. Kids still wouldn't look at me and called me a witch who won't let him get his own car now. Now for the full update. So apparently Dale reads through the subreddits on his work breaks. He texted me a link to my post during his dinner break. A short time later, I first received a call from Rex's mom who said that Dale called her and ranted about how I made him look bad online. She told him that she didn't care because he did not react the way a good parent should. Dale was so furious that he told her that he would be calling his mother to see if someone actually cared about his feelings. Dale's mother handed his butt back to him good and reiterated to Dale that he was not an active part in his son's life until he was 6, so he has no leg to stand on. Dale tried to complain about how everyone was being unfair to him. She shut him up and told him that his son did something wrong, and this is not about punishing him for being a bad father. Dale returned home a little while ago, about an hour earlier than he usually does. He looked defeated, but he was still short with me. Said he was disappointed that I posted and now everyone who knows will think he's a joke and a bad father. I didn't think this conversation would end up with my ending the engagement and relationship, but it did. The house is all in my name, so Dale is packing up his things and crawling back to his mom's house. The wedding wasn't set, so no money or time lost there. Dale said so many things that I don't even want to write down. This is not the man who I have known for 4 years. And I'm honestly shocked at how selfish he is. He said my doctor money would have to buy Rex a car to make up for all the hard feelings. I am astonished at how delusional he is. I am done with his account and will not be returning. Added to add that also, the fact he wasn't in Rex's life till age 6 was a huge red flag to me. He never mentioned it and refused to admit it was a big deal during the argument we had when he came home. Sending internet hugs, OP. Sorry for something so important to end over something so stupid and ridiculous. At least it showed you before you were too committed what you were getting into. Next story. Am I the a-hole for taking my car back, causing my sister to lose her job? In January, my sister Jan, 28, had her car broke down and had to be scrapped. My sister works an hour's drive away from her apartment, and there are no public transit options to get her to and from work. She was denied a car loan for bad credit, along with not being able to afford to put any money down, and things were looking pretty dire. I'm the only person in the family with good enough credit to get a decent car loan, so my parents talked me into taking the loan out and registering the car under my name. The deal was that Jan would give me the money to pay for everything: insurance, monthly payments, etc. And when the car was paid off, I would transfer the title to my sister. This has been the biggest headache. Jan has gone months without paying me at all, and when she does, she is always short and making excuses. The truth is, I'm essentially paying for the car plus insurance for my sister, with a promise of reimbursement. My parents have also promised to make up the difference at some point, but I doubt that will happen. It has been 2 months since Jan has paid me, and it is again looking like I will have to pay this month's payment out of my own pocket. I am so sick of this, and told Jan last week that I want to be paid in full by that Friday or I would be taking the car and selling it. She just disingenuously apologized and promised super seriously to have the money to me that week. Friday rolled around and she had ignored all my texts and calls. I had my girlfriend drive me out to her apartment, but I told her to hand the keys to the car over or I would call the police and report it stolen. The car is legally my property and I'm done paying out of pocket so she can have a car. She told me she had shifts all weekend and that she would be fired if she could not go. I told her I don't care, and then she threatened to sue me. In the end, I got the car and listed it over the weekend. Jan lost her job last night for not showing 3 days in a row. The fact my parents or some other person could not drive her to work seems to escape her, as she and my parents have branded me the biggest a-hole on the planet. Now for the top comments. She wasn't even trying to make an effort to pay you back. It's your car, not the a-hole. I don't get these kinds of people. What do they honestly expect from people doing them ridiculously huge favors? If someone did something like that for me, I can't imagine just ghosting them and going so long without a payment. Even if I was legitimately strapped for cash, I would pay whatever pathetic sum I could. Even if I keep on getting more and more behind, I can at least show my genuine desire to pay and appreciate the favor done for me. The answer is they are a-holes and they think everyone would screw them over like they screw people over. So they have zero issues with it. Not the a-hole. Driving an hour each way for work costs a lot of money, no matter how fuel efficient the car is. If, after 6 months, your sister couldn't make this pay, perhaps she either needed to move closer to work or find a job closer to home. In any case, it wasn't up to you to subsidize her attempt. But if you took the car back Friday and she didn't get your parents to pay you something that night, well, it sounds like maybe they weren't as upset about this as they claim. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not honoring all of her wishes? Backstory. My husband and I separated 2 years ago. At first, we hated each other. It got better this past year. We spoke, we're friends, we both still loved each other. He passed on September 15th. As his wife, no one would speak to his girlfriend. We'll call her Avery. She called me, upset that no one would speak to her. Coroner, police, no one. After speaking to the coroner, I can understand why she doesn't want me to be the one in charge. Avery has given 2 separate stories regarding his passing. This is also the second time she has went through this exact same situation. 3 years ago with her deceased husband and now mine. So I'm already on edge. I've spoken to his, we will call him Landon, family, and they don't know her really and have only spoken to her via Facebook/FaceTime. They do not get along very well and she hasn't really wanted to get to know them. I don't know much about Avery, just what I've been able to learn in the past 4 days in speaking with her. I know she's hurting. I know she's grieving. I'm taking this a lot harder than I thought I would be, and maybe I shouldn't be. I don't know. I'm not sure how to handle this. Avery's mother called me the day I found out about Landon's death and asked me to check my life insurance policy and make sure it would still pay even without the cause of death. This was before the coroner gave a reason and before he even mentioned the life insurance. The DC says, unknown pending investigation, or something to that effect. I don't have it yet. She's trying to push us all out of every aspect of his memorial, even though I'm paying for it. I dropped the policy after a year and is going against Landon's wishes. He didn't want a burial, but a cremation and a small memorial then mixed with his parents. Avery sent a message yesterday asking me to see if the morgue would give me Landon's thumbprint. She wouldn't give a reason. She wants to have the memorial at her church with only pictures of the 2 of them, not his family or me and him. I can understand, but didn't understand why his family and friends would be there since she doesn't know them. She wants me to ask for a lock of his hair. She wants to display his ashes in the same Amish box that her husband was in. I said no. I think that's just distasteful. Now I'm being called and messaged by her family and her, saying how I'm trying to take over and that I shouldn't have a say in any of this. I'm not. I did ask for her input and help. I countered with the fact that I'm paying for it all and that I am still his wife and have a 20-year history with Landon. They argued that this wasn't about me. It's not. It's about Landon. But it's about Avery and Landon. Their life together, 1 year, and have nothing to do with it. And that they don't know why I'm so upset over him passing or being involved. And I'm an a-hole for not honoring Avery's wishes and letting her have what she wants for her boyfriend. Am I the a-hole in this situation? Now for the top comments. She had a previous husband die in a similar way. There's a pending investigation on your late husband's death. She's given 2 different stories. Inquiring about life insurance policy. Maybe I just watched too much true crime, but this sounds suspicious as heck. It's not just you. It sounds very suspicious to me as well, and to his family. We think this is one of the reasons she's trying to push us completely out of everything. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry, but Avery has no standing here. She can grieve him privately, but she's out of line for trying to claim his remains and co-opt his memorial. The entire story sounds sketchy AF. And while you skirt around it, is there an implication she could be involved in his passing? Honestly, block this woman. Don't talk to her at all. And if she has questions about his estate, refer her to your lawyer. You knew Landon for decades. You still are in contact with his family. You are the ones who should be planning whatever comes next. The entire story sounds sketchy AF, and while you skirt around it, is there an implication she could be involved in his passing? To answer directly, yes, I believe so. Avery gave 2 accounts of what happened. To the deputy coroner, she said that they arrived at her mom's house at 3 a.m. and Landon went to bed. She stated that she left at 6 a.m., came back at 10 a.m. and found him in the same position and discovered he had passed. To me, they got to the home at midnight, stayed up talking to her mom. They went to bed at 3 a.m. and when she woke up at 10 a.m., she found him deceased beside her. The deputy coroner also told me that they found at least 10 different IDs, social security cards and bank cards, on him in his pockets when they got there. I know this man. He always emptied his pockets before he went to sleep, and would put his wallet and anything he had in his pockets, except for his phone, in his slippers or shoes. He did this every night, no matter where we were. My 28 female, fiancé 29 male, wants me to put his family before mine even at the expense of my family's health. Plus updates. Original post. I, 28 female, got engaged to my partner of 7 years, Ray, 29 male, in May. Both sides of our family were really happy about this, and we had a big family meal 2 weeks after getting engaged. His brother lives 250 miles away and couldn't get here for that meal, so we decided to have a meal just for his family in late June, when his brother would be back for the weekend. This weekend was arranged long before we got engaged, so he wasn't back just for the meal. Earlier this year, my sister Kate, 32 female, got a serious eye infection that very quickly turned into an ulcer, which scarred her cornea and left it at high risk of a perforation. She needed a corneal graft, but her surgeon was away for 4 weeks, so she was going to have to wait until he got back to have it. However, her eye didn't hold, and it perforated the day I was supposed to be going to the family meal with Ray's brother. Kate's partner was at work and had her phone turned off, and our mom was away with our stepdad. So when Kate called me to let me know what was happening, I knew she would be at hospital on her own. I immediately talked to my boss, and he let me go early so Kate wasn't on her own. I texted Ray to let him know what was going on, and it texted me back to send Kate his love, and to remind me about the meal that night. I ignored a comment about the meal as it was the last thing on my mind. Once I got to the hospital, I was taken back into a room where Kate was, to be greeted by 3 doctors and 2 nurses rushing around trying to help Kate. I was then informed that she needed to have an emergency operation to have her eye glued, or else she would lose it. The problem was that they didn't have a surgeon at that hospital that could do it, and she needed to go to another hospital an hour and a half away. They asked if she would need transportation or if I could take her. I said I would take her. Once we got to the other hospital, we were told that she would be having the operation at 5:30 p.m. I knew then that I wouldn't make the dinner, and texted Ray to let him know. He flipped out and basically told me to leave Kate at hospital and have her partner pick her up after the operation was done. At this point, I still hadn't been able to get a hold of Kate's partner. I told him that it wasn't going to happen, and that he was out of order to even ask me to do that. I then texted his mom and told her what was going on. She was really supportive and told me to stay with Kate and let her know how the operation goes. A dinner can be rescheduled, Kate's health can't. I also spoke with his brother, who was equally as understanding. I stayed with Kate. Her operation was a success, and I got her back home around 9 p.m. Her partner had ordered some Chinese and offered me some, which I happily accepted as I hadn't eaten since lunch. With that, I didn't get home till about 11 p.m. and Ray was already asleep. Ray was very short with me for days after, and we ended up having a huge fight, where he told me that I should have put his brother and family before Kate. He said he was embarrassed going to the meal without me. I responded that I was embarrassed. He thought I would put a meal before my sister's health. This led to another week of awkwardness between us before we finally sat down and we sorted it out. Or so I thought. 8 weeks ago, Kate got her graft, and so far everything is going really well with it. On Saturday, his brother was here, so we went out for dinner with his family. His family were all asking about how Kate was doing, and I showed them a picture of the stitches in her eye. I thought that everything had gone really well until we got home and he got really angry, saying that I shouldn't have brought up Kate's health issues and I shouldn't have shown them the picture. I argued that they'd ask about her and ask to see the picture. It ended with him telling me that I needed to put him and his family before Kate, or else we weren't going to work. His family will come before mine once we are married, so I should get used to it. I went upstairs and packed a bag. I'm now at my mom's house and has been bombarding me with texts and calls since I left. I do love him, but I will never put his family above my own family's health. I feel like he's expecting me to spend every holiday with his family and put their wants above my family's needs, which won't happen. I'm very close to my sister and my mom. That's not going to change. So I don't really know how to move forward or if I even want to. Has anyone experienced anything like this before? If so, how did you deal with it? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. You did exactly what you should. I'm revolted by his behavior, and you should call his mother and tell her what he said and why you're canceling the wedding. Lost deposit costs are less than what divorce costs. We haven't booked anything yet for the wedding, so that isn't an issue. The only issue would be a pain would be the house as it's in my name, but with him living there for so long, I may have to pay him off. I'm not 100% sure how that would work though. Ask a lawyer and promise your ex nothing until you talk to a legal representation. I would probably just tell him to get out first, but I am also not a lawyer, so I can't really help there. Maybe his mom will guilt him? She seems really nice, and so does the brother. How he gets off acting like that, I'll never know. OP, get him out of the house and put an end to this connection. You must go back to your home with your parents and force him to leave after informing his family of what he said. He is an extremely repulsive person. If a spouse can't understand emergencies come up, it will be a hard marriage. Parents get old and need help. Brothers and sisters get sick and worse. It sounds ridiculous. And what you need to find out is, he this mad on his own? Or is it cause his family's mad at him? Which is even worse. His family are amazing, and they had no issue with me missing the dinner and have been so supportive through all of this. Her mom even dropped off a shepherd's pie to my sister and her partner the week after she had her graft, to help out a little. It was just him. His mom and brother are furious with him right now because of his attitude. His mom sounds like an absolute gem. She really is such a sweetheart. He is now insisting that I put his family before my own. I don't know how to move forward with him. You don't. You let him know this is a showstopper. Tell him to go argue with his mother about it. If she doesn't change his mind, it's over. Can you keep his family and dump him? They seem like nice, caring people. I wish I could. His mom is honestly one of the best people I've ever met. She did warn me in the beginning that Ray is like his dad whom I've never met, but I hadn't seen that until this happened. I think that I knew what I needed to do before I came here, but it's hard throwing 7 years of my life away. Now for the first update. Thank you so much for everyone that commented. I replied to as many as I could, but I read all of them. Warning, this is going to be longer than the original post. A lot has happened. For those that want a longer version, once I decided to end things with him, I knew that the main issue would be getting him out of my house. I owned a house outright. My grandma died 5 years ago and left her house to my mom, who sold it and split the money between me and my sister. I then bought my house with that money about a year after she died. I got in touch with my stepdad's friend, who is a landlord the day after I wrote my original post, who then put me in touch with a solicitor. He didn't have time to see me in person that day, but we did have a phone call where he gave me my options. In the UK, we have something called a Section 8 notice. This is a 14-day eviction notice, and the solicitor said this would be the quickest way to get him out. However, he could try and contest it if he wanted to, which would lead to court dates and could take months. I asked him to draw up the notice and date it for Friday, the next day. I'd already made a decision to end things with him after work on Friday, so that he could have the weekend to sort through his emotions before work on Monday. On Friday morning, I texted Ray and asked him to meet with me at our local pub after work. He quickly agreed. Not only is the pub a public space, but my stepdad and a few of his work friends go in there every Friday after work for a few pints, so I knew he would be there to step in if I needed him. Thank you for suggesting this, Redditors. I also picked up the eviction notice on my lunch break, so I was ready to give it to him. Cost £250, but was worth it. When I got to the pub, Ray was already there and my stepdad was stood at the bar with his workmates. I sat down with Ray and got straight to the point. I told him that it was over. I couldn't be with someone who didn't give me any support when I was going through one of the scariest moments of my life and expected me to drop my family for his. It doesn't matter what excuses he could come up with. I wasn't interested. I'd made up my mind and we were done. He stared at me in shock for what felt like an hour, but was probably only a minute or so. He then started saying I couldn't be serious. We'd been together for 7 years, and I was throwing it all away. I could never find another guy like him. I responded to the last comment with, I don't want a guy like you. That's why I'm ending it. I need someone who's willing to support me when times get tough, not get annoyed that the world isn't bowing down to what he wants. I then handed him an envelope with the eviction notice in, and my engagement ring. I told him I was giving him a few weeks to find a place and be out of my house. Then I stood up and walked over to my stepdad, who had bought me a much-needed drink, and stayed with him until my ex left, still looking in shock. I knew he wouldn't approach me whilst I was with my stepdad, as he has always been a little scared of him. This is obviously a very condensed version of what happened. Once I got back to my mom's house, I had one single text from him saying he wasn't moving out, and was going to contest the eviction until I'd come to my senses and got back with him. "We are not over," was how he ended the text. I just turned my phone off and decided to deal with the legal side of things on Monday. There was nothing else I could do. Saturday morning, I woke up and turned my phone back on and had another text from him saying that he would move out if I paid him £10,000, as that's what he'd paid towards bills whilst he had lived at a house. He paid for half the electric, gas, Wi-Fi, and Sky package. Note, the Sky package is only as expensive as it is because he has to have every sports channel known to man, so his half literally just paid for the sports channels. I'd already asked the solicitor about this though, and he'd assured me that I didn't owe him any money as he hadn't contributed to a mortgage or any renovations of the house. It was just general expenses. He also knew that I don't have £10,000 just laying around. Let's say I was irritated by this and decided to ring his mom to see if she could talk some sense into him. I'll call his mom Susan to make it easier. She was appalled by what I told her and said she would speak to him. She called me back about an hour later and asked me to meet her at the house. Ray was on an away day to watch his football team play and wouldn't be back till about 10 p.m., so I knew he wasn't there. I met her at house with Kate, and Susan said that Ray's brother was on his way back home and they would have Ray out by the following afternoon. She hadn't even spoken to Ray, just his brother, but she promised he would be out. Susan then asked me to walk her through the house, showing her exactly what was his and what wasn't, so he didn't take anything that didn't belong to him. The next morning, I got a text from Ray calling me all the names under the sun for getting his mom and brother involved. I blocked him, and a couple of hours later, Susan texted me to let me know he was out and staying with her. I thanked her, and she told me that she would like to stay in contact, and I happily agreed to this. I went back to my house after work on Monday, changed the alarm code, and my stepdad changed all the locks for me. My stepdad is also arranging for a friend of his to install cameras around the outside of the house. This will be done over the weekend. Susan rang me on Tuesday asking if we could meet up, as she had some things she wanted me to know. So we met for lunch that day. It was at this time that she told me her ex was a controlling a-hole, who was incredibly selfish, and his selfishness was what she had seen in Ray for so long. That's why she had commented on him being like his father, but she had hoped that was the extent of Ray's attitude, and he hadn't picked up his dad's controlling behavior, which, to be fair, he hadn't up until this whole episode. She had left Ray's dad after he had punched Ray's brother in the face when he was 14 and Ray was 10. He had never laid a hand on her or their sons before, but one time was enough and she left with the boys. To her knowledge, her ex had never reached out to speak to Ray or his brother, and they hadn't spoken to their father in years. I didn't know any of this. All I had been told was that their dad wasn't in the picture and hadn't been for a long time. But Susan had thought I knew, and that's why she hadn't told me before. However, she had found out on Sunday night that Ray was back in contact with his father and had been for the past year. His dad had been putting lots of thoughts into Ray's head about how he is the man of the house and his family is all that matters. This had fed into Ray's selfish tendencies and had amplified them tenfold. Susan said that she had told him to find somewhere else to stay ASAP, as she couldn't even look him in the face. Then Ray and his brother had a huge argument that ended with his brother telling him that as long as Ray is in touch with her dad, then he will have zero contact with him. Even going so far as to tell him to spend Christmas with her dad because Susan is going to his house and Ray isn't welcome. When Susan took Ray's brother's side in all this, Ray flew into a rage and said he would move in with his dad. He then left the house but came back a couple hours later looking like he'd been crying. Turns out that his dad doesn't want him living with him and basically said he could be on the streets for all he cares. He's not putting a roof over a grown man's head. Susan thinks that Ray is now starting to realize everything he has lost due to him listening to his dad and has seen his dad's true colors. Susan is incredibly disappointed in him, but he's her son, so she is trying to be there for him as best as she can. However, she still wants him out as she doesn't trust him anymore. His brother still won't have anything to do with him. She has also told him to stay the heck away from me, as I don't need to be brought into this, and he has promised her that he will. Only time will tell if that's true, but I do have him blocked and everything, and if it turns up to the house, I'll just call the police to get rid of him. The more Susan told me about what had been going on behind my back, the more resolute I have become about wanting nothing to do with him. I never want to see him again, if I can help it. So all in all, Ray's life is a crap show, but as long as he stays away from me, then I don't care. I've been spending a lot of time with my sister and her partner as well, and my mom and stepdad, which has been great. I've never really been close to my stepdad, but this has brought us a lot closer together, which has been one huge positive out of all this. I'm not exactly happy right now, but I'll get there. There's still a lot of feelings that I need to unpack, and it will take time to move on from this whole situation. I don't think I will be dating for a while. I need to really get over all this and don't want to dump this on anyone else right now. For all those asking how Kate is doing, she's doing great. Had a hospital appointment on Monday, and her consultant said her eye's healing. In his words, marvelously, so that's a relief. Thank you to everyone that reached out to me. I hope there won't be any need to update this again, so this should be my final update. Second update. So I, 28 female, posted on a relationship advice before about my now ex, 29 male. The post and updates in my profile, but basically my ex-fiancé wanted me to put his family before mine, even at the cost of my sister's health. I ended up breaking up with him over it, and he was forced to move in with his mom, but then found out that he had been in touch with his abusive dad who has twisting his views on how a relationship should work. Last I heard was that his mom was kicking him out as she would not have anyone in her house that was in contact with her ex, and that he had tried to go live with his dad, but his dad had refused. I was completely no contact with him, so his mom was the one that had told me this. I hadn't heard from Ray in weeks, but yesterday he showed up at my house. I had a chain on my doors, so opened it with that still attached. No way would I let him in. He basically told me that he had nowhere to live. His mom isn't speaking to him, and his dad won't put a roof over a grown man's head. His words, not mine. He asked if I would take him back or at least let him live with me. No way in hell would I get back with him, and getting him out the first time only went easy because his mom stepped in to help. He had threatened to take me to court knowing that if he did it, it could take months to get him out, and then said he would only move if I gave him 10,000 pounds. I contacted his mom, who was furious about that, and she turned up with his brother and forced him out. I told him that there was zero possibility of him ever living with me again, and that we were 100% over. He started shouting at me and calling me all sorts of names, so I threatened to call the police if he didn't leave and shut the door. I have cameras all over my house, so I caught everything he did and said on camera and have saved it to a USB just in case. He then went crying to all our mutual friends, and it managed to get back to his mom. She called me and asked what happened. I told her, and she then informed me that she had put her house up for sale and was moving 300 miles away to be nearer to her other son. Her and Ray had a huge argument about this, and she finally kicked him out. Since then, he's been couch surfing. But with Christmas coming up, his friends aren't really happy with having him on their couches when they have kids and are meant to be enjoying the festive season. He's been kicked out of 3 friends' houses in 10 days. She told me I was right to refuse him, but I've since had other friends say that they feel sorry for him, and I can just let him stay in my spare room until he's back on his feet. I then asked them to put him up then, but they said they would but don't have room. And if they had a spare room like me, then they would let him stay. My family and his are on my side, but I'm starting to doubt myself with what a couple of my friends have said. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edit. Just a quick edit as I'm going to bed. I've just spoken with the wife of one of Ray's friends, and she's asked to meet me on my lunch break tomorrow. Apparently, Ray stayed with them for 2 nights before she kicked him out, and there's more going on than what I know of. She's going to tell me the full story tomorrow, but told me that I shouldn't let him anywhere near me, and that he's staying in a B&B, so he does at least have a roof over his head right now. I'll try an update after I've spoken to her. Now for some comments before the last update. Not the a-hole. Stay far away. This is not your problem anymore. Not the a-hole. Tell them he can sleep on the floor. Exactly this. If this thread is still active, can someone please explain to me why the solution is not offered more frequently? For my family get-togethers, it isn't uncommon to have way more people than bedrooms, so we just spread out extra sheets/blankets/pillows on the floor. Not the a-hole. Why is he, a 29-year-old man with nowhere to live, relying on his mommy and trying to force his way back into your life? It's absolutely not your fault or your responsibility to care anymore. It sounds like a user or a bully. This is something I don't understand either, as he has savings. Whilst we were together, he had 5,000 pounds in his bank, and he's a full-time electrician. That's more than enough to get him a decent flat in our area, as it's a low cost of living area. Even with recent rent hikes, he can afford that easily. I don't recognize the man has become this year. He went from skilled tradesman with savings to homeless, broke, and so unbearable he can't even manage to make it a few days at various friends' houses. It doesn't matter why he's spiraling so hard. Drugs, mental illness, sheer toxic masculinity feeding massive entitlement. It only matters that he is a bad news. And anyone saying you should help him out is a goddamn moron. Well said. If I had to guess, it's drugs. I'm the child of an addict, and I've seen so many of my mother's friends do this. Either way, still not OP's problem. From the way OP's edit went, I'd wagered a friend's wife is going to warn OP that her ex has had some violent and/or threatening things directed at OP though. I can't think of another reason why someone would reach out and warn OP to avoid her ex. Drugs would likely not require an in-person chat. Now for the third update. So I posted yesterday about my ex turning up at my house, wanting for me to let him move back in with me. I said no, but a couple of friends thought I should let him, and that messed with my head. Ray's my ex. A few people told me to change my lock, etc. I did that, and changed my alarm code, as well as my stepdad got his friend to put up 4 cameras around my house. I'm also going to start shutting the gate, so that no one can walk up to the house without ringing the bell there first. I put in an edit that I was going to be meeting with one of Ray's friends' wives for lunch today, and I have to say that it was informative for sure. I'll call her Nora, 30 female, and her husband Zane, 29 male. So I went to meet her on my lunch break at a cafe near my work. It's a place that a lot of my coworkers go to, and I know the staff there as well. A few Redditors thought that she might bring Ray with her, so I wanted it to be somewhere I feel comfortable and have backup if needed. Turns out that I didn't need to bother about that. When I got to the cafe, Nora was there on her own. I grabbed some lunch and a drink and sat with her. We went through the usual small talk before she started telling me what had been going on. Ray rang Zane on Thursday morning saying he had nowhere to go and could he stay with them for a few days. Zane spoke to Nora, and they agreed he could stay in their guest room. Ray went to their house after work, and they had a long talk where Ray told them he has a flat lined up, but can't move until January. Zane and Nora agreed to let him live with them until January, as long as he followed some basic rules and paid for his own food. The rules were things like no bringing women back there, and if he went out drinking, he had to be quiet when he got back so he didn't wake their daughter who's 6. He agreed to all this, and paid for a Chinese takeout for them all that night. The next day after work, Ray went to meet his dad at a pub for a few pints. When Zane and Nora went to bed, Ray still wasn't home. They were woken up at about 2 in the morning by Ray arguing with a woman. Apparently, Ray had met this woman in a bar, took her back to Zane and Nora's house, got his pleasure, and then told her to get dressed and leave once he was done. She had gotten angry, which started an argument where Ray was saying some horrific stuff to her. Nora took the woman downstairs and got her a taxi, whilst Zane stayed upstairs arguing with Ray. Once Nora had got rid of the woman, she went back upstairs and tried to calm Zane and Ray down. At this point, Ray decided to take out his frustrations on Nora, calling her a witch and telling her to do something useful and make him a sandwich, before bursting out laughing like it made the funniest joke ever. This made Zane lost it and pinned Ray to the wall by his throat. Side note, Ray isn't a fighter at all, whereas Zane was an amateur boxer in his youth and can handle himself well. Nora managed to get Zane to let him go, and Ray was shoved in the guest room and told to sleep off the alcohol. It's a miracle that Nora's daughter didn't wake up during this. The next morning, Nora got their daughter ready and went to her mom's after telling Zane to get Ray out of their house. Zane agreed, and after Nora left, he woke Ray up and told him to pack his stuff and leave. Ray tried to apologize and beg to stay, but Zane was having none of it and kicked him out. Going off the timing, I think he left there and came straight to my house. On Sunday, Zane texted Ray to meet up so that they could speak, and they met up in a pub. Zane has been friends with Ray since they were 11, and has never seen him act like he has been doing, so he wanted to find out what was really going on. He managed to finally get the truth out of Ray. Basically, Ray has been in contact with his dad for a lot longer than he told us. By this point, it's over 2 years. His dad is a raging misogynist that believes a woman's place is in the kitchen and bedroom. A man's place is to rule the house and be waited on hand and foot, as well as deciding who can and can't be in their lives. He's been dripping this poison into Ray's ear, and it's really taken a hold of him. Zane told Nora that he just doesn't recognize Ray anymore. Ray wants to start living his life the way his father has told him he would. When Zane pointed out that Ray's dad is 62, living in a crappy one-bedroom flat, not had a real relationship since his mom left him, has no friends, his family doesn't speak to him, and that he's the type of guy that when he walks into a pub, people finish their pints so they can leave and get away from him, Ray was furious. He told Zane that his dad is just misunderstood. Zane responded that people understood his dad, and that's why they stayed away from him. He's toxic. This pretty much ended their conversation and Ray left. Zane did find out that Ray does have a flat lined up for January, so that was true, and that is found a bed and breakfast he can stay in till the flat is ready at a minimal cost. Zane and Nora have also decided to go no contact with Ray, as they don't need that toxicity around them, but especially not around their daughter. A few Redditors had said it sounded like Ray was on drugs, so I asked Nora what she thought, and she doesn't think so but can't be sure. She and Zane think that Ray's just so far under his dad's thumb now that he's completely changed as a person. He believes that everything his dad says is gospel. She did let me know that Ray has a burner IG account that he is using to check on my IG, and I immediately made my account private. He had said something about seeing me waste money on a stupid amount of Christmas presents when I couldn't even help him out to Zane on Sunday. I'd been to a Christmas market on Saturday afternoon and had posted pictures on IG. All of this just made my resolve stronger that he will not be getting anywhere near my house again. It also made me realize that I don't have any feelings for him anymore, other than frustration at how he's acting and some sadness at how far he's fallen from the man I once knew. I thought that hearing that he had another woman in his bed would annoy me, but there was just nothing. I couldn't have cared less. I thanked Nora for the info and we agreed to keep in touch. We won't be as close as we were when I was with Ray, but it feels good to have someone who knows the entire situation and has seen Ray's behavior with his own eyes. There were also some Redditors that told me to ditch the friends that had told me to let him stay with me. Unfortunately, I can't ditch them completely as they are part of the friend group, and that would just cause unnecessary drama, but I will be keeping my distance from them and only talking to them when part of the group. I'm currently at my sister's, and we are going to watch a Christmas film to get us in the mood to decorate all our houses this weekend. So I will be on the top for the next few hours, if anyone has any questions. Thanks for the votes and giving me some perspective. Reddit isn't all bad. Damn OP, the bullet he dodged. And not just Ray, but I'd imagine at some point that Ray's dad would have tried to talk his way into the house too. Ray, eager to please, would have been only too pleased to house his hero. I want to feel bad for Ray. He's definitely being brainwashed by a toxic tool. But for him not to see how much following his dad cost him is crazy. I'm at a point now where I don't think I ever really knew him. He was always seemed so strong, but to see him basically bow down to everything his dad is saying had blown my mind. Men who are like this are insecure at heart. You really dodged a bullet by being a good sister. Hope your sister's eyes well, and you find peace and happiness. Her eyes doing amazingly well, all things considered. Fingers crossed it keeps going in the right direction. Glad to hear it. My husband does a lot of cornea transplants, so I hear about update. My girlfriend 30 female overheard my 35 male family talking badly about her. Original story. My girlfriend Sammy and I have been together a bit over a year. She's absolutely wonderful. Smart, attractive, driven, educated, kind, and goofy. She's everything I've ever wanted. And up until last week, I thought my family felt the same way. Last week, I went to my parents' house for dinner. We get together as a family a few times a month as it's been a tradition with us for years now. Sammy usually joins us for these dinners, but I had work obligations, so I told my family she wouldn't be joining us that night. Halfway through dinner, I got up to go to the bathroom, and Sammy texted me that she was outside. She got off work early and came over to hang out. She would have normally walked in, which is normal, but she needed help bringing in some gifts. Sammy's leaving tomorrow for a work trip and a personal vacation to see some friends, so she won't be back until Thanksgiving. My brother and sister twins have their birthday next week, and my girlfriend had gifts for them. At this point, my family had no idea Sammy was there. We walked inside and headed to the kitchen, and we overheard my family talking. My sister was saying that she was glad my girlfriend was gone, because she couldn't stand a family night being ruined by my girlfriend being annoying. My brother and other sister agreed about how annoying and awful my girlfriend is. My dad made a comment about how they should be nice to Sammy. Then my mom chimed in with, "Sammy's nice and all, but I can't believe Opie likes how fat she is. He can do so much better." My family, even my dad, agreed. And my sister piped up that I was dating down because I'm still rebounding from my last girlfriend, which was 5 years ago. I was floored. My family has always been so nice to Sammy and I've never heard them talk badly about her. I've never heard my family say mean things about anyone, to be honest. Sammy walked into the kitchen and dumped the presents on the counter. She was crying and mumbled something about happy birthday and then took off out the door. My family looked shocked and a bit embarrassed. I asked my family what the hell was wrong with them. I didn't stick around for an answer. I went after Sammy. She was in her car crying. Now, Sammy's usually tough, but family's super important to her. She has no family aside from an alcoholic dad that she doesn't have any contact with. My family was like surrogate's family and something she always wanted. She was overjoyed when my family welcomed her and invited her to family events. The presents she brought my sister and brother were paintings she had spent many hours working on. And yes, she is fat. But I prefer thick girls. Always have. To me, she's gorgeous and exactly what I like. But even then, she's lost about 40 pounds since we started dating. I would love her at any weight, and I'm proud of the work she's done. I have no idea what they mean about her being annoying. She comes when she's invited, usually brings baked goods or beer. She's taken my family out to dinner multiple times and is extremely generous with them. She's even become the go-to babysitter for my sister and her 2 kids, and she helped my brother get a job in her company. She pushed really hard to get him hired and put her professional reputation on the line. She's never asked for a payment or holds it over anyone. She even does the dishes when we come over for dinner. The thing that makes this even worse is I was planning on proposing to her in the next few months, and I had planned on asking my sisters to come with me to pick out her ring. Now, Sammy hasn't said much about it and hasn't talked to me much about this incident. She has always wanted a family and she doesn't understand why my family doesn't like her or what she's done wrong. She said she'd talk to me more when she gets back from her trip. I don't want to lose her over this, and I would take her over my family. Sammy hasn't been in her usual cheerful self this week, and I've got her crying more than once since this incident. I try to comfort her, but she tries to play it like she's fine. At this point, I have no idea if I even want them in my life. All of them have reached out to me with weak apologies full of justifications. I asked my mom if she had apologized to Sammy, and my mom said I could pass on the apology. To be fair to them, all of them do feel bad about what happened and seemed extra embarrassed about this. But no one can give me exact reasons why she's annoying or how she's ruined family nights. My dad is the only reasonable one that has offered to apologize to Sammy directly. What do? I don't want to get rid of my family, but Sammy matters more to me at this point. I want Sammy to know I'm fully in her corner and I don't want her to feel guilty if I have to cut out my family. Now for the top advice before reading the update. To be fair to them, all of them do feel bad about what happened and seemed extra embarrassed about this. My mom said I could pass on the apology. What? Yeah, no. These are adults. They can't apologize or not, but no one should be passing along apologies. Your girlfriend sounds like an awesome girl. If I were her, I wouldn't feel comfortable being around those people. If I were you and that was my family trashing my husband, I'd tell them to buzz right off. I had a conversation with my sister that ended in buzz off. They need to apologize directly. I would drop them until they do that. Passing on an apology from your family is adding insult to injury for your girlfriend. They don't feel bad about what they said. They feel bad because they were caught saying it. They are not in a hurry to make amends by the sounds of it. Remember, you pick your friends and girlfriends, but you can't pick your family. For that reason, families sometimes think they can get a free pass to treat you and your friends badly because they're family. BS. Families have to earn and hold your respect the same way anyone else does. And if they fail, feel no guilt in stopping having anything to do with them. Your girlfriend sounds like a keeper, your family doesn't. I think you've nailed what I'm really upset about. They don't respect me, my relationship, or Sammy. And I've lost that respect I've had for them. An apology isn't going to rebuild that respect, but it would be a start. It sounded like your dad didn't 100% agree with the conversation. He defended her before you walked in, and that's why he will genuinely apologize. The rest of your family's only embarrassed. They hadn't planned on saying those things to your face. If you tell them you plan on proposing and aren't sure if they'll stay in your lives, you'll likely hear more convincing apologies. But from what you've shared, I doubt they'll actually be sincere. You're right about my dad. He seems pretty upset about everything and offered up a genuine apology. I think I'll get him and Sammy together for an apology, and he might be the only one that I interact with in the future. I haven't told them about the proposal yet. They won't be hearing about it anytime soon. Edit. I went to bed and woke up to tons of replies. Thanks for all the advice and support, everyone. I have decided to take Sammy on a vacation for Thanksgiving. I'm on the phone with a very helpful guy that's trying to find me a hotel room that isn't booked for that weekend. No matter what happens, I think this is going to be a tradition I build with her for the future. A relaxing weekend to ourselves, while everyone else is running around buying knockoff iPads. Also, I talked to my dad briefly last night. He's pretty horrified by everything and has agreed to come over and apologize to Sammy, and do it when Sammy feels up to hearing it. I've told Sammy all of this since it happened. She knows I'm choosing her over my family and that I would choose her over anyone. And now for the update. A few people have messaged me for an update, so I thought I would post. First, thank you for all the kind words and great ideas. It really helped me get some perspective on the situation. First off, Sammy and I had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We spent it out of town in a small skiing town. It was a great weekend, and we spent a lot of time talking and discussing what to do about my family. Sammy was still pretty hurt over the matter, but was adamant that I shouldn't cut all ties with my family, so I told her that all depended on my family. My mom was in denial that I wouldn't be coming to Thanksgiving. After my last post, I let her know Sammy and I wouldn't be attending. She brushed it off until the day before Thanksgiving when she called to make sure I was bringing pie. I reminded her that I wouldn't be at dinner, and she broke down crying. She told me she was sorry for hurting Sammy and would like the chance to apologize. I let her know she'd have a chance after Thanksgiving. After we got back from our Thanksgiving trip, my parents came over for dinner. I had okayed this with Sammy, and she thought my parents deserved a chance to make this right. And frankly, I think she really wanted to mend things with my family. Dinner was awkward, to say the least. My dad started out by offering Sammy a genuine apology. He told her he was extremely embarrassed and genuinely wanted to make things up to her. They had a nice chat. The talk with my mom, well, that went okay. My mom cried through most of it and tried to reinforce that she was very sorry. I couldn't tell if she was sorry or just upset that I was taking Sammy's side. I don't think Sammy was convinced either. Then a few days after dinner, my mom called Sammy and asked her to lunch to talk by themselves. Several comments in my last post mentioned that my family probably felt Sammy was annoying, simply because they felt intimidated or projecting their own issues on her. I think that was spot on. Sammy went to lunch with my mom. They had a very long, good talk about everything. She said my mom felt jealous that Sammy was so educated and had a chance to get an education. And Sammy admitted to being jealous that my mom has a big family. Sammy opened up to my mom about the situation with her own family and living on her own since she was a teenager. I think that hit my mom very hard because she's always been surrounded by a big, loving family. And I think she was horrified by her own behavior towards Sammy, who wanted to be a part of the family. Overall, I think things are better between my parents and Sammy. My younger sister reached out to Sammy after Thanksgiving. I don't think any of my siblings expected me to ditch family dinner, and I heard they were pretty upset I went on vacation instead. My sister apologized over the phone. I don't know if it was enough, but it was a good step. Sammy says she's feeling pretty neutral about my youngest sister. She said she feels like my sister is more sorry she was caught, but Sammy appreciated apology. My brother had to endure a very uncomfortable few weeks at work while Sammy was traveling. I think by Thanksgiving, he was confident that Sammy wasn't going to screw with his job. When Sammy got back to work after our vacation, he went to her office to apologize. Again, I think he apologized just to appease us. But he did it in person and didn't try to cop out. Like my sister, Sammy feels neutral about him. My other sister, my brother's twin, is the only holdout. She hasn't given Sammy an apology and seems pissed that she no longer has a built-in free babysitter. She's doubled down and said she has nothing to apologize for, and Sammy's the one causing troubles. This has caused a bit of a rift in my family. My parents would like Sammy and I to come to Christmas dinner, but I'm not interested in being around my sister right now, and I'm not going to subject Sammy to that. My parents have even suggested that my sister should stay home to make us more comfortable in coming. While I appreciate the sentiment, I would feel guilty about my sister being alone on Christmas. Her kids will be with her dad. Sammy and I have plenty of offers from friends, while my sister would probably not be able to find a place to go on short notice. Sammy's told my parents she would rather not create a bigger rift and will come over at another time. Sammy told me, privately, that while she has forgiven my family, she's not all that comfortable hanging out with my family just yet. I'm perfectly okay with this. I feel like taking some time from my family will be a good thing. Sammy and I are still deciding where to go on Christmas, probably to my best friend's house. The best part of the update, my best friend's wife went ring shopping with me. She let me go to all the chain stores and balked at the prices for the same ring in every store. She eventually took me to a local jeweler and we discussed a custom ring. The jeweler completely understood what I wanted, and I decided she would be great at designing a ring. She's pretty backed up with orders and said she'd be able to get to it in January. A few nights ago, she texted me a picture of a stone she had found to see if it fit what I had in mind. Sammy saw the text, and it led to an impromptu proposal. She said yes. So now I have a fiancé. We haven't really told anyone yet. I'll tell my family at some point, but for now, I'm enjoying sharing this time with her. So things are okay. Better than I hoped since my last post. I'm very sad about my sister because I miss her and her kids, and I miss my family, but I feel good about my decisions. I feel like things will get better with my family, except my sister, in time. Sammy liked the idea of a destination wedding next summer, but we haven't even started any planning yet. Sammy told me after everything that's happened with my family, she feels confident that I have her back and that she finally has me as her true family. Very nice, congrats. Though I'm appalled that the one who should have been her supporter is the one holdout. Your sister trusts her to babysit but talks trash on her and won't apologize? Messed up. I honestly think my sister's pride is getting in the way. She's not one to back down or submit, especially when she's wrong. I hope she'll pull her head out of her behind at some point. I don't know what kind of relationship you have with your sister, but shakeups like this can be the best time to switch gears. Have you spoken to her directly and privately? I would reach out, preferably in person, and lay it all on the line. Find out her reasoning why she said what she has, then call BS. Counter with a nice thing Sammy has done for her sister by her own choice. Add a conversation by telling your sister that she's acting like an ugly person, and you don't want her to be a part of your life until she corrects her mistakes. This leaves her an out. Say that Sammy's owed an apology and her entitlement needs to end. She's lucky that Sammy ever babysit, and she'll never find someone that cares as much. I don't know, I'm feeling feisty right now. I read that you're skipping Christmas with family because you feel bad for sister. If you don't confront her, do not skip future family events. Let the family's choice of attendance do your talking for you. Keep a hard boundary though. Neither you nor Sammy should attend nuclear family events with a sister until the issue is resolved. Don't let time sweep it under the rug. That's a very good idea. And I think I would partly enjoy calling her on all her crap. I hope my dad talks some sense into her because he has expressed how disappointed he is with her behavior. She's a daddy's girl and his disappointment carries a lot of weight. If not, I'll talk to her and not tiptoe around her pride. Now for the last story. My 26 female sister, 30 female, wants me to give her the baby I'm carrying. My husband died a month ago. Before that, we actively tried for a baby for the past 2 years. He had low count, and it was extremely difficult for us since we had to keep trying the old way, because we couldn't fund the IVF process. It didn't make sense to us to go through that, and then being bankrupt when the baby came. 2 weeks after his passing, I found out that I was pregnant. It was so bittersweet. I love my husband with all my heart, and having his child as a dream came true. But I can't keep this baby alone. I have to leave the house by the end of the year, move back with my parents, and basically start over. I'm not economically, mentally, or emotionally stable to have this baby by myself, and it's so unfair to bring it into a chaotic environment just for my selfish wishes. So I decided to terminate. I felt so alone that I want to see my sister and talk about her. I know that my parents will never allow or forgive me for doing this, and I thought that I had a safe place in her. I came undone and told her how I was feeling, how I couldn't keep this baby, and how much that broke my heart because it was the last piece of my husband. Instead of supporting me, she has this bright idea. I can give birth and let her and her husband adopt it. Like mine, her husband has low count and they've tried to get pregnant for over 8 years. I said that I wasn't sure, and she told me that if I did it, I could keep seeing him, and some part of my husband will remain in this world. I was about to agree, when she saw me doubting and said that if I refused, she's gonna tell my parents about it. It was the threat that infuriated me, so I left. I don't have that many friends and I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose my baby, that's true. But at the same time, I'm not sure I can find a proper life for them. I feel like everything is falling onto my shoulders and I don't know who to trust. Now for the advice. I've actually known several women who have lost their partner while pregnant. Almost all of them felt like you. I no longer wanted to be pregnant. If you have time, give yourself some breathing room. You are grieving and everything seems like a mountain to climb. Seek some counseling if you can. Best of luck. Whoa, that's insane. Instantly makes me think, do not give this woman a child to mess up. Seriously, do what you gotta do, but remove giving the baby to her as an option. And maybe don't trust your sister again. Just be careful that your sister doesn't tell your parents first, and manipulate them into pushing you to give your child to her. Even if she doesn't disclose it first, she'll try this afterwards as that is her agenda. Take care. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé my daughter has to be in our wedding? Original post. I, 45 male, have a daughter Pam from a previous relationship. I divorced my ex-wife in good terms, and we share 50-50 custody of Pam. She's now 11. After I divorced my ex-wife, I met my now fiancée Susan. Susan and my daughter got along very well, and after 5 years in my relationship with Susan, I proposed. Susan was super excited and wanted to start planning right away. She looked at venues and started asking her friends to be her bridesmaids. She then told me she wanted her niece to be a flower girl, which I had no problem with, but I said I also wanted Pam to be a flower girl. Susan looked at me funny and then said that she didn't think that Pam would fit the part. I got angry and told Susan that my daughter would be in our wedding. Susan started to become upset and said that the girls in the wedding were up to her and Pam wouldn't be one of them. I told Susan that if Pam wasn't in the wedding, then there might not be a wedding. I stormed out and took Pam to get ice cream. Pam knows we are getting married and told me she thinks she will look pretty in whatever dress Susan decides she would wear. This broke my heart, and I decided to text Susan and told her I would be staying at a friend's to think this over. My mother-in-law texted me saying I am overreacting and that my daughter doesn't have to be in my wedding, and I was a jerk for saying that I would cancel. So did I take it too far saying I will cancel? Am I overreacting or just being a good dad? Now for the top comments before reading the update. This is a big red flag. If she doesn't want to include her stepdaughter in her wedding, then don't expect she will include your daughter in her life. She seems a little odd to think that your daughter shouldn't take part in this important life event. It is so weird that she doesn't want her future stepdaughter to be in this wedding. Because if Opie and Susan are getting married and becoming one family, the daughter is part of the family. As a future stepmother, Susan should honestly want to include her, not exclude her. Is her treatment of Opie's daughter going to change? Is she going to start looking at ways to exclude her? Exactly. The fiancé is lucky that she's being invited to become part of Opie and his daughter's family. She is the one joining their existing family. The daughter isn't some optional outsider that can be excluded. What seems even more insidious about this is that he's been dating this woman for 5 years, since his daughter was 6 years old. Susan has known Pam for nearly half of her life already, and now that they are getting married, it's like she can start over and Pam can just go live with mom, I guess? I'd cancel the wedding and make plans to leave the relationship. Not a-hole. Be careful. Susan just showed you her true feelings for Pam. You want the people who mean the most in your wedding. The fact that your fiancé, who I'm guessing is younger than you and this will be her first marriage, doesn't think your daughter fits that description is extremely telling to me. Even if Susan gives in, you've now seen where your daughter rates in her potential stepmother's life. If you choose to ignore this, it won't be the last time your daughter is left on the outside looking in. Hard agree. I was 18 when my dad married my stepmother. My stepmother didn't like us very much, but there was no hesitation. My brothers were groomsmen, and I was a bridesmaid. The bridal parties ended up being different sizes, and it was pretty clear that I was tacked on since there was one more bridesmaid than groomsmen and my dad only had my brothers. But I was automatically included from the get-go. No hesitation, no doubt, just the automatic assumption by my dad and his wife-to-be that we would be in a wedding party. If my stepmother, who barely tolerated me, cared enough to include me, what does it say about Susan, who thinks that her fiancé's child doesn't fit her aesthetic? Pretty sure that means the daughter doesn't fit her life either. Now for the update. Thank you everyone for all the kind words and suggestions. To answer a few questions, my daughter is not disabled, chubby, or having an awkward face like braces or glasses. I did ask Pam could be a groomsman. Susan immediately shot me down. Susan is 39. She is the same race as my daughter. This is her first marriage. I tried to answer as many comments as possible. I came home to talk to Susan today. When I pulled in our driveway, my mother-in-law was sitting there in her car. I got out and went inside trying to avoid talking to mother-in-law. Susan was sitting at a kitchen table and I joined her. She sat in silence, so I asked the first question. Why does Pam not fit the part? And why don't you want her in the wedding at all? Her answer full-on shocked me. She quietly said, I was hoping that after the wedding, you could become a holiday visit-only dad. I didn't want her in the wedding, so she wouldn't be in the photos around the house since she wasn't going to be around much. I kept my cool, calmly took her hand, and pulled my engagement ring off. Her eyes started to tear up and said we shouldn't end the marriage over this, and that she can change. I told her the damage was already done. I told her that I wanted her things moved out by the next week and that she could come get them when my daughter wasn't home. The house is in my name and I paid for it. I was allowing her to get her furniture that she paid for. She stormed out, and mother-in-law came knocking on the door saying I was being unreasonable. I couldn't imagine only seeing my daughter 3 to 4 times a year. The fact that Susan wanted me to give up part of my custody blew me away. I'm sitting on my couch just in shock. Our honeymoon was supposed to be in Hawaii, so it looks like me and Pam will be going instead. I will update again if anything happens. The fact that some people don't realize that they're Disney villains never ceases to amaze me. It's all pretty mind-blowing. The ex-future mother-in-law saying he was being unreasonable for not abandoning his child feels even more incredible. From a quasi-outside perspective, how can she not see how psycho this is? Honestly, I've known a few wicked step-parents in real life, and their families were always their biggest enablers/defenders. I bet Money mother-in-law is also the type of person who couldn't recognize any stepchild/adopted child/foster child as being one of her grandchildren. I actually don't think it's all that surprising that Opie's fiancé didn't reveal her true colors earlier on. I've known a lot of people who felt similarly about their partner's children and didn't really make it clear how they felt about them until shortly after they were engaged or married. Similar to how a lot of people turn into abusive monsters or lazy leeches right after moving in with someone/getting married or once someone gets pregnant or has a child. Agreed. Many comments kept saying that there must have been something, but I totally think it's possible that she just showed her true colors now. Oh, absolutely. I mean, let's be honest. We've all had relationships and friendships with truly awful people. And I'm sure we all felt hoodwinked when we finally realized the sort of person they actually were. I kept my cool, calmly took her hand, and pulled my engagement ring off. This was raw as heck. Absolutely no hesitation. Grade A dad, and I hope the best for him and his daughter. Oh, and I also hope Sharon steps on a Lego 5 times a day for the rest of her life. Definitely grade A dad. It's too bad things didn't work out with Pam's mom, but it looks like they still had a good relationship, just not a romantic one. I'm glad Pam's got parents who put her first. I hope Opie makes her a groomsmaid if he meets someone new that he wants to marry, and only changes his mind if the new fiancé makes a strong case for her to be a bridesmaid instead. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that I don't want her in my life anymore? My wife and I have been together for 15 years. We were together for 2 years before we got married. We both brought a child into that relationship and I ended up legally adopting her daughter. Before we got married, she called the wedding off at the last minute because we had an argument. I wasn't allowed to see her daughter that I've been raising the past 2 years, and I was heartbroken. Obviously, we reconciled and got married, and I adopted her daughter who is now 15 and I just see as my own. We also have 1 son together. But that's kind of how our relationship has been the last 15 years. She gets mad at me and she ends the relationship. Last year, she even said she doesn't love me anymore, and I was living outside until she decided to love me again. We're currently going through this again, and I'm just over it. I'm always the one fighting to keep our family together, and I just can't anymore. She wants me gone, and I finally want to be gone and not deal with this anymore. The kids are old enough to keep in touch with me on their own, and they know I'll always be there for them. But she says I'm an a-hole because I said that once I'm gone, I don't want her in my life anymore. I want a fresh start, and I want to be free from her drama for good. Am I the a-hole because I don't want to stay in touch with her once I'm gone? I loathe my ex-wife. I would love for her to just disappear someday. But we have 2 kids together, so I have to deal with her. My suggestion is that when you have to interact with her, keep it strictly about the kids. Nothing more than that. Oh, and get a good divorce lawyer. You're gonna need it, I think. It seems like she likes to play with your heart any way she can. She will use those kids to get at you. Get a lawyer so legal boundaries can be set. Someone gave me the same advice, and I am so thankful that they did. Same here with ex-husband. Great advice. Don't fall for her manipulation and don't look back. You'll be much happier, and so will all your kids. A-hole? Not from what you posted. Ignorant? A bit. Once you have a child with someone, they are a part of your life forever. At an absolute minimum, there will be custody exchanges. You'll need to co-parent over things like doctor's appointments, medical coverage, schooling if they decide to go to college or trade school, etc. And what if one of the kids wants to get married and wants both parents there? The link will forever be a part of your life. You may not be able to get rid of her 100%, but you should at least try to keep things respectfully different for the kid's sake. I'm coming from a divorced family, and this sounds a lot like my dad. He just didn't want to deal with my mom. He'd pick us up, drop us off, but never said hi to her. I assume he means part of his personal life, but I don't know for sure. It really is forever, and it can creep up anytime. Last year, after a family tragedy, my dad had to deal with my bio mom and her side of the family. I felt guilty, like it was my responsibility to deal with that instead of him. After all, they've been divorced for something like 35 years. But he said no, it was his to deal with, and I'm still the child in this relationship. I still felt bad though, mainly because I was relieved I didn't have to deal with her or her family. There's a reason they're divorced, and a reason I don't want anything to do with them. Edit? After thinking about it and reading the comments, I do think cutting her out completely is an a-hole move, and would put a lot on my kids that they shouldn't have to deal with. My intention was never to abandon them, but to communicate with them directly and not deal with their mom. I don't think that will work though. This position came from a place of extreme frustration, and I'll have to work through that. Not only that, but in spite of our problems, she did give me 15 years of her life and 2 amazing kids whom I love more than anything. I do plan on moving on, but in a way where I can try to limit my interactions with her, while still communicating respectfully. Thank you to everyone who took the time to comment. Last story. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my fiancé before the wedding because he has a child? I, 25, and my now ex, 27, met when I was 20. He was a bartender back then. We immediately started dating. He was cute and funny, and we have a wonderful 2-year-old daughter. We had an amazing relationship until 1 week ago. We didn't get married in 5 years because he didn't want to. He always said that he's okay with living together, but he doesn't want to get married. I was not okay with that, but I got pregnant. Pregnancy stress, baby stress, etc., so I didn't think much about it. Then, 3 months ago, he proposed. Out of nowhere. He was in a hurry too, and said he just wanted to get married immediately. So we planned a wedding. I thought he changed his mind, but when I posted this proposal on Instagram, I got a message from a woman around my age, who DM'd me, showing his son's pictures who was almost 5. I was shocked, and confronted my fiancé about it. I showed him the pictures and messages, and he started crying. I comforted him almost 2 hours, then he started to tell me about this woman. They met at a bar he worked. Our relationship was 1 or 2 weeks old by that time. He didn't think much about it and slept with her. She told him that she's getting an abortion but she didn't get one, and he learned that 3 months ago when she was back in town. He was scared that I'll leave him, so he wanted to get married. I broke up with him and I'm very sure about my decision. But mind his parents are telling me that I'm wrong, that we were new, and I can't break up with him because of something happened 5 years ago, blah blah. I don't know how many times he cheated because he didn't think we will made it that far. He said only once, but I don't believe him. I'm disgusted, but confused because of my daughter. She's daddy's girl. I don't want to make my daughter and his dad apart. Maybe I can just close my eyes and forgive him? I don't know. Here's the deal. The issue is not what he did 5 years ago. The issue is what he did 3 months ago. Which is when he found out he had monumental life news that his partner of 5 years had every right to know. But rather than telling you that and dealing with it in an honest, straightforward manner, he not only lied by deception, but attempted to double down and trap you into a legal marriage, making it harder for you to leave him should you discover his cheating at a later time. You are absolutely correct to have dumped him. Not for the 5 years ago mistake, but for the colossal one 3 months ago. That means you can never trust him again. Yep, it's not just a fling, it's the actively hiding the result of the fling. If his fling partner didn't DM you OP, you would never have known about the fling and child, because your ex-fiancé would never have told you. Tell your and his parents that it wasn't about the fling. It was his decision to deceive and lie to you about the child and fling. That shows a lack of trust and respect from him to you, not the a-hole. Especially instrumentalizing something she really wanted, marriage, against her, and using it as a manipulative tool. It's not just about him cheating while the relationship was new. It's also trying to rush you into a marriage to keep you from dumping him and hiding the kid when you found out, not the a-hole. He handled the situation stupidly. Instead of being an adult and explaining this to you rationally, he tried to entrap you in marriage to make it harder to leave him once you found out. Not the a-hole. You were right to leave him. I'm not sure sleeping with someone when a relationship is a week or two old is disqualifying. At that point you were dating. But lying about a kid and not telling you why he wants to marry so fast certainly is. Exactly. I guarantee that had he come to her immediately after he found out about his kid and told her the truth, she wouldn't have broken up with him. He instead hides the information that she has every right to know and tries to trap her in marriage so she doesn't leave him. Not only did he lie to her and try to get married under false pretenses, he weaponized her desire to get married and used it against her. He not only lied to her, he betrayed her over a maybe mistake he made when they first started dating. Honestly, if I was dating a guy and learned years down the line